Thank you so much, Hal. I just love, didn't Hal do a good job decorating this? Phenomenal. Look at what it says up here. It says, what is it? Judeo-Christian values. America founded on Judeo-Christian values. Preserve the dream, one nation under God. And you know, I think about those pilgrims that came over in that little boat across the Atlantic for one purpose and one purpose only. And it was to be able to express their faith in God, to be able to have the freedom of religion that they so deeply desired, to be able to practice their faith the way that they wanted to, and not be beholden to King George and the Anglican Church. And yet today, that very religious freedom is under attack by our government. And in many different cases, you find that you're not allowed even to say the state motto of the state of Ohio: with God, all things are possible. And ladies and gentlemen, if we have forced God out of every single public institution in the state of Ohio and in the United States of America, where will we find our morality? With what will we make the decision as to what is right and what is wrong? And as you force God out of these public institutions, you now have people saying that wrong is right. And it's because they forced God out of all these public institutions. We need to respect people's religious backgrounds. We need to respect people of faith and allow them to express their faith in the classroom, in the courtroom, and in our government. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring God back to the public square, both here in the state of Ohio and in the United States of America. The second thing I think we need to do for our great state here in the state of Ohio is we could give everyone a raise by finally killing the income tax here in the state of Ohio once and for all. Let me tell you, this income tax has driven more people to Florida than probably the population of the entire state of Indiana. I remember one time when Jeb Bush came up here to talk with the Speaker of the House. He leaned over the lunch table and said, "Mr. Speaker, please don't ever get rid of the income tax in the state of Ohio. We like it very much in Florida." I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we don't always have the weather of Florida. We certainly don't need to have income tax policies that drive people away from our great state. Let's eliminate the income tax once and for all in the state of Ohio and make ourselves the #1 state to make things once again in the United States. Now look, I was just talking with the former president of the United States, George Washington, earlier, Dale Fellows, and Dale knows that we have a big family. The Spragues have 5 children. And I tell people around the state, I say it's a little bit unusual to have a big family like that nowadays, Mike. It's a little bit like having a waterbed. Yeah, it used to be that everybody had one, but now they're just weird. But we have 5 children. We tell our kids, we say, look, you're not owed anything in life because of your last name. But what you are guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America is that you get to write your own story in our country. It's not the story that Dad wants for you. It's not the one that Mom's wants from you. It's the story that you want. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, nobody gets to write their own story here in the state of Ohio when they're living in poverty on a government program. Now, most of these government programs were created for a time in our state when the problem was that our industrial base was leaving here in Painesville, here in Cleveland, and my hometown of Findlay, Ohio, in Northwest Ohio. And the problem was that we did not have enough jobs for all the people in our great state. But ever since COVID, we have a new problem, and you know what that is? The problem is no longer that we don't have enough jobs for all of our people. The problem is that we don't have enough people for all the jobs that are being created in our state. And we need to recognize that this is a once-in-a-generational opportunity to lift people up and off of these government programs and into a good job and help them realize their own destiny here in the United States of America and get them into a great career here in the state of Ohio. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you the truth, we need to burn some things down in Columbus. Now you're up here in Northeast Ohio, and you've had to deal with the First Energy piece. And this First Energy company paid then Speaker Larry Householder $61 million of bribe money, and that's been widely publicized. But you know what the dirty little secret is that you may not know? Do you know where they got that $61 million from to pay him that bribe? From you, as the ratepayers. They added it into their rate base and charged you and your utility electrical rates for that bribe that they then paid Larry Householder. Ladies and gentlemen, it's got to be reformed. The Public Utilities Commission of Ohio, our energy policy in the state of Ohio, it must be reformed. It's going to take an outsider to do it. I'm telling you, we know how. We just need to have leaders with the backbone and the courage to make government work for you instead of you working for the government. I want to kind of close here with a story about my family. My great-great-great-grandfather was William Lafferty Davis. He was Welsh. He came over from Wales, was immigrated to the United States of America, and from Maryland married Margaret Lafferty Davis, and they hopped in a covered wagon and made their way over the Appalachian Mountains to Northwest Ohio. He dropped then pregnant Margaret Lafferty Davis in Lancaster, which was kind of the last known outpost of civilization at the time. And he came up to Northwest Ohio to Findlay, and he chopped down the trees on 1 acre of land. And the rule back then was if you cleared the land, you got to keep the land. It was homesteader. And so he chopped down, he went up there with an axe and a horse. He chopped down an acre of wood, built a one-room log cabin, and went back 9 months later to pick up Margaret Lafferty Davis in Lancaster. And by that time, she had lost the baby. And he brought her back up. They had 7 children. And he ended up clearing 800 acres with the bare hands of him and his sons. And when the Civil War came around, 2 of William Davis's sons volunteered for the 121st Volunteer Infantry and went down to fight on behalf of the Union. And at the end of the war, one of his sons was killed, and they knew that, and the other son was held in the Andersonville prison. And if you know anything about the Andersonville prison, it was by far the worst prisoner of war camp in the entire United States during the Civil War. When his son failed to return home, then 52-year-old William Davis decided that he would get on a horse and he would go to try to find his son in the Andersonville prison. On the way down, William Davis was successful. He could not find his son at the Andersonville prison, and on the way back he caught pneumonia and he died. His son ended up making it back to their farmhouse in Findlay, Ohio. And when he arrived on the porch, he was so starved that his own mother didn't even recognize him when she opened up the door. Now, William Davis did not leave a long list of things that he believed for posterity for our family. But he didn't need to, because as his great-great-grandson, I know what William Davis believed. First of all, I know that he believed in God, because God is the one that created all men equal, and his sons volunteered to fight to give the freedom to other men of other races in our country. Secondly, I know that William Davis believed in our country, because he was willing to go and volunteer his life and also his sons' lives for the benefit of our union and to keep our country whole. And third, I know that William Davis believed in his family, because he laid down his life for his family and for his sons. And if we maintain those values that help grow our state, a belief in God, a belief in our country, and a belief in family, no one can stop us. And we will win at the ballot box. We will re-elect Donald Trump as the next president of the United States of America. We will defeat issue 1, and we will bring God back to the public square in our great country. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.